Today I'm interviewing an extraordinary innovator, an inspiring creator of world-class spirits brands. Somebody who's always done things differently. Somebody who's known as a maverick. And I can say this with confidence because he also happens to be my big brother, Patrick Rigney. Known to the family as Pat and known within the drinks industry as PJ Rigney, the Curious Mind. He is owner and co-founder, together with his wife Denise, of the Shed Distillery, home to Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin, here in this most beautiful part of Ireland, the Northwest, an area called Drumshanbo. So I'd like to welcome you along on a journey today, a journey of entrepreneurialism, leadership, personal growth, and also the power of community. Well, welcome to the On Leadership series at Inside Us. And Pat, thank you for hosting us here at the Shed Distillery in Drumshanbo in Ireland.
Delighted to have you here, Vivian.
This is a happy first.
Yeah, no, great to have you in Ireland and here in the Northwest in Drumshanbo.
Which is, we start off with a basic question. Why the significance of Drumshanbo? Why this area for you and your family? What does it represent?
Well, originally our parents met here in the village. Mum was working in Arigna on the bookkeeping and accounting side, and our dad was the visiting auditor to check the books, and so there is a connection with the area. But more than that, when we wanted to set up the distillery, the Shed Distillery here, we were looking for a place that had a real sense of community, wild, off the main street, and we found this incredible community here to set our roots and build the brand.
And what year did you establish the Shed?
We established the Shed in 2014. We opened the doors in 2014 on the winter solstice, which is a significance in Ireland, which is the 21st of December. So it's essentially the shortest day of the year, but also the beginning of lengthening days and a bright future.
And the optimism that goes with that.
Yeah, and there was great optimism here when we came to Drumshanbo. We're actually based at a social enterprise. So where we are located is owned by the community, and we lease it from the community, and that was part of the attraction to come here. So we're very much part of the local scene here.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the village of Drumshanbo and your time here and what you've learned about this community.
Well, this is a village of about 850 people, and there's an old Irish word called metal, which means working together, and this village really worked together and punched way above their weight. So they've made certainly myself, Denise, Roisin and the team very welcome here, and we actually feel part of the community.
You've also spoken about the community here and the work ethic of the people, that oftentimes people have multiple jobs in this community. Tell us more about that.
I think historically, this area in Ireland was not the richest area, and people had to multitask and have many different roles, maybe part-time farming, a part-time job, and God knows what other activities to support their families. And so they have that background, and as a result, they are hardworking, really pulled together, and it makes it a very special place, to be honest, not just in Ireland, but I think anywhere in the world.
How did you get into spirits?
Well, since I left college back in 1982, I accidentally fell into spirits by joining a drinks company in Ireland, working domestically with many international brands here with Grants of Ireland and Gilbey's, and then moving into Carolyn's Irish Cream and Bailey's Irish Cream for 10 years. So really I've been immersed in that industry for all my career, and it's been a great industry to be in.
Yeah, and it's funny that gin represents 95% of your business here, which from an outside perspective, it's interesting that it's gin and not whiskey that is the driver at the Shed Distillery. Tell us more about that and how that's the case.
Well, Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin is essentially our core brand. We are a gin distillery that also distills Irish whiskey, but our focus is Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin. It's all built out of the journey that the physical journeys as well as other journeys through my life across the world, and bringing that curiosity back here to Drumshanbo to create a brand that we hope competes with the best in the world.
Yeah, which is fascinating. And the gin plays homage to international inspiration and travels, as we see with the botanicals. But there's also a deep connection with the community here. And I wanted to ask you, how do you blend those two things? You know, here in rural Ireland, where you've established this global brand, in line with your travels and your own background, what's the through line between both of those things? How do you blend those?
Well, when you build a distillery, it's very similar, or build this kind of project, it's very similar to a triathlon. You build the distillery, you make the product, and then you market the product, in our case, onto international markets. And really what you're trying to do is you start with the brand and the story and the narrative, which is built around my curious mind, I guess, having been traveling for so many years, and you bring that back to a sense of place, which we have here in Drumshanbo. So we have a real sense of community, and consumers are looking for brands that have a sense of place, but they're also looking for excitement, and they're looking to be part of the narrative. And we have a very exotic, very interesting brand. And we have to remember that the population of Ireland is just 5 million people. The population of the world is 8 billion. So we need to export in order to make this business a success, in order to sustain the jobs here. The single most important reason that we've managed to be successful thus far, and we need to stay there, is the team, it's the diversity, it's the mix, it's the energy, it's the karma. We don't get it right all the time, but we are very unique in how this team has been put together. They, all the time punch way above their weight, and we also use a technique we call extreme resourcefulness in how we go about our business, and that has led to great creativity, great agility, great speed. Because we are competing with the best in the world from a very small village with relatively small resources. So to be successful, we need to have, the best of all of that, and to be always be outward looking, and to be really connected with our consumers, but also to be connected here with the people in Drumshanbo.
It's a high quality brand, unquestionably, and you're secured in that part of the market. That's one of your core focus areas. But you're also highly disruptive, and that's a theme that comes through time and time again. What does disruptive mean to you, and how do you work through your team for that to impact the market? Because you started, I believe you as you mentioned, the company was launched in 2014, or established in 2014, but you launched the gin in 2016. That's not long ago at all, and yet here you are in how many countries, how many continents today?
We're in 80 countries around the world, in all continents. I guess when we started, and it's something that's very important and we stay true to, we wanted to create what I call a remarkable brand. And a remarkable brand is a brand that people will instantly remark on when they see it at an instant, so that they connect with the brand from the very first moment. And that there's different layers to the brand, there's excitement to the brand, there's interest in the brand. But at the end of the day, when they go through the layers, there's something real about it as well as being exciting. So disruption for us is, it's not disruption for the sake of disruption, but disruption to connect and engage with consumers, which is very, it is a bit of an art as well as a science. I mean, there is an element of science, but ultimately it's an art. Otherwise, the larger companies would find it easy to do this, and they'd be doing this on a regular basis, but they find it very difficult to do it. But again, I come back to the team and the way we work together. We stay very close to the market, we stay very close to our customers, and my job is really to absorb all the feedback and hopefully make the good calls, because somebody has to make a call on whatever it is, particularly in relation to the brand.
What's the common thread in terms of the personalities that you choose, the diversity that you have, different personalities? Say you don't do Myers-Briggs. There's some sort of secret sauce there in getting people to really want to work here and to be this disruptive in the marketplace, to have grown the brand to 80 countries in a very short amount of time. What is that thing that you look for in bringing people onto your team?
Gosh, I mean, it's probably evolved. In the beginning, it was when we started here, unemployment in this area was very high in 2014. It's hard to believe unemployment in this region of Ireland was probably up around 20%. We just come out of the deep crash. So hunger at that time was probably something that we tapped into. People were hungry to work for us. They wanted to work for us. Maybe they've been bounced around a bit. Freedom as well, that they can work with a degree of freedom. But certainly hunger is a big part of it, and willing to get stuck in and willing to grow and develop within the company. We will train people, we will bring them on, but they have to have the right attitude, the right characteristics. Great example would be well, today we have 100 people working here, but we started with one employee, our distiller, and today we have 7 distillers. Now he trained all of those. So they had no background in distillation. We have a salesman, we have an electrician. If you go into our marketing area, our marketing head of marketing he doesn't have a marketing background. And if you go into our commercial team, a lot of them don't have commercial backgrounds, but they have great attitudes, and they have a great grow to get out there and get things done. So it's an unusual experiment, to be honest with you. It's probably more like a tech company in some ways, but we move fast.
Right.
And we're always trying to anticipate what's coming next. And we've this phrase, which I picked up from Dell on a visit to Austin. It's not the big versus the small. It's the fast versus the slow, and it's all about speed. And we also don't do a 5-year plan here. We have strategic priorities, and we roll them, because if we had a 5-year plan or 3-year plan, by the time we get to the end of the first year, it's completely out of date. So all the time we're watching what's going on. But the team are exceptional, and we have extraordinary talent. One thing that's quite unique is because we have a visitors element here, we have hospitality team here who work, welcoming people here on tours, and they bring a totally different set of talents. But they've actually blended very well into some of the core marketing areas as well. So it's the mix from production to finance, back of house, front of house. It's very unusual today to have that mix, whereas in the larger companies you're very much doing one job. Here you get to do many.
Right, so one thing that struck me, Pat, when we look at this beautiful map here, the journey of a curious mind. So I was speaking to Mum last week and asking her about you and what you were like when you were a kid. And what she said was she remembers you coming back from school as maybe a 6 or 7-year-old with these stories of almost like dreamlike stories of how you see things. And she was talking about you always being in this, you could go to this place where you would imagine things and see things and create things. And I'm just looking at this curious mind, how you see that. I'm just giving you something Mum told me last week, but how you see curiosity in what you do, but also who you are, Pat.
Well, I guess it's it's part of my DNA, I guess, as from an early stage of life, as you mentioned it. To me, it's just normal, and it's exciting, and it's seeing possibilities out there, and maybe just marinating on an idea, and then suddenly 3 or 4 things come together, and it all seems to make sense. So it means that you're always trying to be present in the moment, connecting with what's going on, hopefully, and then being able to join up the dots maybe at a later stage. And I mean, a very simple example of that would be that I was in Germany just before we opened the distillery in a very remote area called Salem, and I was sleeping in a pension upstairs, and I was assisting the Prince of Baden on his work, and he was coming to collect me that day. I was on his advisory board, and but there was an unusual smell coming into the room, or odor coming into my bedroom. So I came down in the morning, and the lady was in her mid-80s, didn't speak any English, and I beckoned to what was going on, and she brought me around, and underneath my bedroom was a garage, and in the garage was her husband, who was probably about 90 years of age, but he was distilling underneath my bedroom, which was kind of interesting. So when the Prince came to pick me up, I said, well, this is incredible, this is extraordinary. He said, oh yes, and all of that equipment is made in Markdorf, which is 15 kilometers from here. And he said, would you like to go and see it? I said, I'd love to. So at the end of our work day, we went down to see that place called Ireland Holstein, and they actually built all our equipment here because I connected with those guys, and they actually have built all our stills, all our equipment, and they've become deep friends. So I think for me, it's just about being in the moment, connecting, and of course, the moment is there, and the moment goes in a fraction of a second. And
So you got to capture it.
you got to capture it.
Yeah.
I have a great memory of working in Bailey's, and before the internet and before all the social media and digital marketing, and we used to do a test called the PRS test to measure advertising of magazines. And people would be sitting, flicking through magazines, and you'd want to see that they land on your ad, and how long did they land on your ad for Bailey's or whatever brand it was. And what we learned was, or certainly I learned was, that even with the best advertisement in the world, the eye, because they'd follow the iris of the eye spent less than a second on each advertisement. It was a millisecond, but it was longer on some than on others. And over time, obviously, that built up an impression for that particular brand. So that's how short the opportunities are.
The attention span is,
The attention span is.
Yeah.
We see the same with social media. You know, whether we drive all of that here with our extraordinary team. You know, we do it ourselves to make sure we're connecting with the consumer, but we know that it's a millisecond whether they connect with it, they like what we're saying about our brand, or they don't connect with it.
Which is interesting because compared to some big companies with a lot of marketing resources, huge teams, programs, reach and so forth, your social media presence has been unique in a way, and I think your impact from what you've described has been profound in supporting the growth. How do you see getting it right with social media in this day and age with everything moving so fast, enormous amount of competition and noise out there? How do you connect?
Well, I remember actually establishing our Facebook page in 2014, and we got to 200 followers, and I was over the moon. And today, you know, this year we will, on our social media, we will hit over 300 million impressions and close to, 25, 30 million engagements. And that's driven by our team here, but we live it. So we live the pulse of our brand. We are very connected to the brand. We live it every day. We meet twice a week. And we have a cracking team. We challenge ourselves, and we are constantly looking to see how we stay in the sweet spot so that our consumer is comfortable with what we're saying to them. So it's never ending. It's every day, it's every second day of a week or whatever that we're on it. And I think it's just about living it. You can't give this to a third party. It's too important. And we can see that the connectivity of our brand is that much higher because we're living it, we're feeling it, and we're feeling it with our consumer.
It's just listening to you, it's almost like it's a living entity. How you describe this, it's got to be nurtured, but it's got to be protected, and somehow your team at large, it resonates with them, so it becomes personal for them, right? The brand is personal. It's more than just something on a shelf or an entity. This is something, what you're describing there, it feels like it's something living, which is hard, I imagine. It's hard to land in that place, but it's hard to even connect with that.
And I think it does have a heartbeat, and I think the reason we've managed to get to this point is that we live every moment with our consumer, with our customers. We check in with them all the time. And we obviously want to continue to excite them and delight them. And in order to do that, we need to be with them. And at times we need to push them a little bit. But again, it comes back to the team. This is a big experiment. I don't know that it's ever been done before in our industry quite like this. Certainly not in these times. You know, we're a small business and we're competing with the best in the world. We're communicating at the highest level, Olympic world-class standard, and it's all coming from this community here in Drumshanbo by this extraordinary team and working with really fabulous partners around the world, not least our US partners Pan Bay International, which we're very proud to be involved with. And all the time we're pacemaking, we're pushing, we're challenging each other, so that we have to stay a little restless in order to ensure that we look after the brand.
Mm-hmm. So Pat, now we get to talk about you, with you in the room, but talk about you. We have Denise, your wife, here. We have Roisin, my goddaughter, my niece. Starting with you, Denise. You know, when you look at a husband and wife team, you know, a few years ago, a lot of, you know, VCs would look down as you know, spouses working together, perhaps as a negative. In the last 5 years, there's been a lot of studies to say that actually can be a secret weapon. What's your take on this? You've been here from the very beginning and before. Describe to us how this works, because you've been a profoundly important person behind the scenes in developing this.
Well, Vivian, I agree, number one, that yes, it is a powerful weapon when there's two of you involved. It's a bit like, as Patrick often talks about, the one horse can pull 1 ton, but 2 horses can actually pull 3 tons, because by working together and by bouncing ideas off each other and talking, we're much stronger, and it builds a much stronger base on which the company was built. That's what I believe.
How do you complement each other?
We're complete opposites when it comes to the skills that we need in a business. My skill sets are dealing with the detail of doing revenue applications or setting procedures in place to ensure that orders go out with the right paperwork or whatever. So I would do all the minutiae, where Patrick is the big ideas man, and without somebody with the idea, I wouldn't have a job to do. So that's what I do. I mean, the team have a name for me. They call him the curious mind. They call me the practical hands. So that's how we complement each other.
And Pat, what's your take on Denise and how and how you've operated since the beginning, and also obviously leading up to it? Like, how does it work from your perspective?
Yeah, well, it has been a great success, to be honest, and the horse idea is so true. I mean, it's huge support. You know, able to deal with a lot of issues in a better way than me, more matter of fact, more practical, and I think the two have worked exceptionally well. I mean, it was obviously an experiment in the sense that, would it work? It's been a huge success, and we do see other businesses that have managed to achieve similar success in this way, and but there is a bit of magic about it as well, and you know, in terms of the fact that we've been able to work together as husband and wife and still get along.
Right, it's a big deal. Moving to you, Roisin. So you've been again with the business for recent years. Tell me about, you travel around the world representing Drumshanbo, Gunpowder Irish Gin, and the other brands. What's the thing that ignites people's interest in this? With all the audiences you go to, I know you go to the US a lot, but also other places. What ignites people to latch onto this, to connect with the brand? From your experiences, what do you see? What do you observe? What do you hear from people?
Well, I suppose, like you said, I've been to many different places, but it's the realness, it's the rawness, it's, of course, the beautiful bottle, but it's the passion that kind of passes through your voice when you're talking about it. So, of course, first impressions count in every way possible, and that includes meeting new people and things like that. But the bottle is the first impression of the brand. It's the first impression of yourself when you walk in, really. So from the first handshake when you walk in, you take out the bottle, and that's your talking point. But what they're really interested in is the way you're talking about it, and how real the brand is, and that it comes from an actual family, an actual person. And we're not just, we're not a big corporate enterprise. We are located in a social enterprise, and we are a really small team. And as Pat has mentioned before, or my dad as well, you could say, but we are extremely resourceful, and you aren't just doing one job during the day. You're not just social media, you're not just giving tours in our beautiful visitor experience here. You're doing everything, and I think that really passes through when you're kind of explaining what the brand is really about. And that passes through to the consumer, to the wholesaler, to the importer, to the distributor, whoever you're talking to, and they feel it. And I think it's a great feeling, and it's quite magical, to be honest. And I know Pat will probably touch on it later, but there's something spiritual about the place and about the brand. And I know that might sound maybe a bit different, but it's absolutely true. And everything I feel like Pat touches, it becomes this kind of spiritual element that connects people. And I really think it's something special, and people get that straight away. And yeah, I don't really know, like, you have to feel it and you have to kind of live it to get it.
Right, I can see it in your face, it comes through you as
Yeah.
well. So Pat, you've created something very family oriented here with all those things we discussed earlier. How do you do that at scale?
Well, we've a very eclectic bunch of people working in this team, and we're very proud to have them
How
on.
many nationalities do you have here now?
Nationalities, probably about 5 or 6 different nationalities. But what the common thread is their energy, their interests. They want to improve themselves. They want to do better, and it comes from within. Once they have those characteristics, it's then very easy for us then to work with those individuals to get the best out of them, for them to be the best they can be. But hiring the right people with the right attitude, to be honest, is the critical bit, and to have that good karma, that you don't have negative people on the team taking energy out. So it's all about putting energy in, and obviously to support people if they're having a bad time, which is normal, and we do our best to support people if they are having a difficult time. But overall, it's the character of the people that are on the team.
Can I just say, it's also about giving them a voice that they're listened to. So if they have a great idea, or if they have a way of wanting to do something, they have the opportunity, because our doors are never closed. So they have an opportunity to come, whether it's a member of my team or a member of Pat's team. They can go and they can talk to him and get an idea brought forward or otherwise. So it works both ways, that there's two-way communication all the time. It's not just people being told what to do. It's get them, they also have the opportunity to come and offer some ideas.
Before we started this interview, I remember I was walking through with Pat through the visitor experience here, and you know, he's pulling out the drawer to make sure it's shown in the right way. Like, attention to detail seems to be something that's really important here. And I think when you walk through this experience, the attention to detail it's everywhere, and it's so different to what's normally the case. Something that's bland or something that's typical. It's untypical.
But that comes down to everything that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've done, but the team now are doing it also innately. So there is real soul here, but it's the attention to detail. It's that last 1% or half of 1% is what makes the difference at the end of the day. You know, so many other businesses and brands do a wonderful job, but maybe they don't all go that extra 1%. And for us to succeed and to survive, we always have to be doing the 1%, the 0.5% better than everybody else, and showing we care. Well, Vivian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Really enjoyed the experience, learned a little more about my brother, and thank you for making the trip from the US.
Until next time, Sláinte.
Sláinte. Cheers.
Sláinte.